All right, it is indeed time for the Fluffle to assemble. Welcome to the Rabid Atheist Show. I'm your host, Ed Raby, a former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-atheist. Welcome to my channel and welcome to the Rabid Atheist Show. Today on tap, I'm doing a little bit of personal nostalgia combined with a criticism of an organization I used to be a part of a long time ago that somehow still continues to exist to this day. So we'll be delving into that. Welcome to what has been the lasting legacy of Promise Keepers, and something I used to be very hugely involved with a long, long time ago, and I want to take a look. So, so there you go. There you go. But in the meantime, there's a couple of welcome one and all, whether you're a paid for citizen or just a tourist who's just subscribed or just looking across the border, wondering whether or not to immigrate to such a wonderful nation as the Rabid Nation. Welcome, one and all. Welcome to the broadcast. Couple of announcements. There's, of course, a goal in chat that helps keep my channel motoring along. Gives me some of the resources I need to do what I do. So always, we hit that goal. I'll wear whatever hat is chosen by the poll at that time. So that's a little bit of a fun way of raising some money for my channel. There's also a Discord link in the description to the Fluffle of Fangs if you're looking for a community of like-minded secularists that like to have a good time every now and then. I think we qualify. So there you go. And then let's see. Oh yes, and I want to make sure everybody, we're still working on our GoFundMe for IKIlledEarl needs our help, and so we're doing that. We're just asking you to check it out. If you can afford to give, great. If you can't, we just appreciate a share to somebody maybe that can. We're actually doing pretty well. Yeah, we're still $17 short of 4,000, and we're trying to raise 7. So. Good stuff. I appreciate it. I know Earl appreciates it. She's been very, very like leaky, as she puts it. She's been crying a lot about this. So, and understandably so. Thanks everybody in the Fluffle who's donated already. Appreciate all of you. Appreciate Evan for helping me with that. Thank you. Let's see, is there any other announcements? Oh, tomorrow I won't be broadcasting. I'm going to stop broadcasting on Wednesdays for a bit. I'm trying to get some balance back to certain things that I do in my life. And someday I'll be doing this full time. I can just feel it. And then I'll have plenty of time to broadcast and do all the things I need to do. But I'm trying to keep that. So yeah, it's good crying. Good crying. Yes. She's overwhelmed with how everybody, is helping her out. She's worried about it. She's good. All right. Today I'm taking a trip down memory lane. I am taking a trip back to the young rabid atheist who wasn't a rabid atheist at the time. For those of you who don't know who Promise Keepers is, I'll give you here. Let me pull up a brief historical synopsis, and then I'll get into how they affected people. Promise Keepers is the brainchild of a guy named Bill McCartney. He was the head football coach of the University of Colorado at the time. And he had a vision of godly Christian men filling football stadiums and learning godly living and accountability and family leadership. I don't know. For those of you that are more in the know, it's kind of like he was a coach that had a vision of filling the stadium with something besides fans of his football team. So in the mid 90s, from like 1993 to 1997, they grew exponentially. Probably their high moment was October 4th, 1997, when it was estimated that 600,000 to 800,000 men had a massive gathering on the National Mall that were Promise Keepers oriented. It's kind of men's ministry back in the day. The whole point was like they had male accountability groups. I know I had one in my church. They were about racial reconciliation. They wanted strong Christian marriages. They were about sexual purity. So definitely a bunch of purity culture stuff. Particularly with married men, it was more like don't watch porn, because at that time the internet was kind of growing, and of course it was a threat, because now you could get your porn through the internet and you didn't have to keep that stack of magazines under your bed or hidden somewhere. And of course they were into evangelism. And right after their high point, they began to decline. They had financial strain, they had staff layoffs, they had declining attendance to their events. They had regional offices that had to close, and all that. And then they tried to relaunch in 2018, and then they ran into COVID. So they ended up doing online conferences, which they still do to this day. Right now, I think it's Shane Winnings is the chairman CEO of it, and they just had the last big event they had was in 2021 at Oral Roberts University. So that kind of gives you the theological breakdown. So yes, and now they're pretty much, they do small conferences, things like that. But that's kind of the historical breakdown, and I'm going to go over the reason I'm going over this, and I put a link in the description to the conference in 1995 at the Pontiac Silverdome, which no longer exists, where Bruce Wilkerson is speaking. Bruce, I believe, is the son of David Wilkerson, who started Teen Challenge back in the day. Author of The Cross and the Switchblade. I think that's his son. The reason I include that link is I'm not going to play it, but if you're interested, somewhere in that crowd is a young rabid atheist who is not an atheist. I watched that sermon live. I was surprised that somebody had posted it online. But I was in that crowd, and giving a little bit of my personal background on this, because these days we deal with like the red pill and Christian. There's lots of Christian men's organizations that are trying to bring back traditional biblical manhood, or whatever the hell that is. And I feel like that all started back then. I think it all started with Promise Keepers. And a large portion of this was just there's a lot of young, frustrated men. Does this sound familiar at the time? A lot of us Gen Xer men were just kind of frustrated at the whole situation, because we were coming to the slow, painful realization that we were not going to have it as good as our parents. A lot of Christian men were struggling with porn, and so, because it was now more readily available. So yes, this was kind of one of the early days of what I would call early red pill, before red pill was a thing. And I remember we had a Promise Keepers group in our church, and I'm going to go over the 7 promises of the Promise Keeper. But looking back at it, I now really look at this time like my father had died. It had been less than a year. I'm sitting at this conference in the Silverdome, and I'm thinking to myself, because I'm in seminary at the time, I had just finished all my classes in seminary, and I had come home. The only thing I had left to do was my thesis, and I was writing that from home. We had word processors by that time, and I was thankful for that, because spell check was a lifesaver. But I remember thinking to myself, this is probably one of the things that anchored me in the faith emotionally at the time. It was just it was just one of those things that did that. So yes, no, Stella. Yes, please hit the like button. I appreciate that. Thanks, Tilting. Good to see you. Oh, I forgot to do the roll call. What am I doing? Let's see. Evan's here. Dragon Rider's here. Martin. Michael. Tilting. Thank you, Tilting. Anybody else? Oh, Wolf's here. And, Ryan's here. Good to see you, Ryan. I think that's it so far. Good to see y'all. Appreciate you. Yes. Yeah, we have a lot of wolves today. Tends to be the guy when Michael and Julian show up. Yeah. A lot of wolves. A lot of wolves. Yes. Wolfies. They're cute when they're pups. But yeah, like it was an interesting time frame for my life, and I often I think I can blame Promise Keepers for keeping me in the faith a little bit longer, because it kind of allowed me to connect my father's death with my Christianity on an emotional level. And my dad was all the male example I ever needed in my life up until that point, and then all of a sudden he was gone. And when you're in an emotional crisis, this is a classic case of an organization coming in during an emotional crisis that's Christian and nabbing you up. And I ended up being part of a group in my church. Actually, there's a group here in town, and we rotate churches, and and all of us trying to be godly men. Now, I have a large problem with this now, of course, as an atheist, because when you discard the Bible's definition of what manhood is and womanhood is, and you start actually trying to figure out what all that stuff really is in reality, all of these expectations go away. And my thumbnail says it all. Like, if somebody came up to me and said Promise Keepers created godly men, I was like, no, I think it really created a lot of unhealthy delusions. Okay, so yes. So there you go. So Christy, struggling? Yes. Struggling with porn, is you? Yes. Yes, word perfect back in the day. Oh my gosh, some of you are like, I wrote my thesis on word perfect, I believe. So, but yes. Get out of heaven's sake. I guess. Here, let me. I'm going to pull up the like Promise Keepers has its name for a reason. The guy created way back in the day the 7 promises of the Promise Keeper. And everybody who went to Promise Keepers heard these every week. There's a goal here that I think you can see from the outset, and I think it meshes really well with a lot of Christian men's group even to this day. I would say that they aren't as big as they used to be, and they've had to reboot a couple of times. Mostly because of a couple of things in the Promise Keepers 7 promises. So, and of course it has to be 7. Like you can't have 5, like, or 13, or you got to have 7 because it's a godly number. So here we go. All right, I hope everybody can read this. But this is what you had to, and I think this is still valid. I think this is still part of their website and all that stuff. So these are the 7 things that you had to promise as a Promise Keeper. Number 1 was to honor Jesus Christ through worship, prayer, and obedience to God's word and the power of the Holy Spirit. Okay. There was a lot of looking at Jesus as the ultimate man in Promise Keepers. And therefore, in order to emulate him, to identify with him, there's a lot of, I don't know, the best way I would describe it today is there was a lot of bromance encouraged between members of Promise Keepers and who Jesus was as a man. Like they really heavily emphasized the fact that Jesus was a man, and that we needed to honor him as a man as well as our Savior. So there was like, you need to teach me what it's like to be a man. And of course, that leads into the whole biblical discussion of Jesus Christ, where Jesus Christ becomes the example of self-sacrifice. He becomes the example of providing for his family, teaching his family. Like the whole traditional male role here is definitely here. So, yeah, they're satanic. So I think there are more dangly bits as you go on. Yeah, that's probably true. I can't remember anything about it now, though. Yes. Well, yeah, nuns married Jesus. And so I just remember that a lot of the teaching out of Promise Keepers just had this idea of Jesus being the ultimate man, and he was the guy that we needed to emulate. And all the stories of Jesus were for our examples of how to be a good, godly man. And so honoring Jesus Christ was a lot about, yes, it was the worship and prayer parts, but also being obedient to his commandments, because that's how you become a true man. And there was this whole delusion about, and this is why I say this is like, it's not such 7 promises. These 7 promises are based on 7 delusions. And the first delusion is that Jesus Christ is a good example of manhood. I don't know that that's true. Yeah, like like your posts on the Fluffle with the gym bro thing. Yeah, big stuff. There was holy crap. There was a T-shirt back in the '90s with that very thing. Like, uh, it has Jesus like doing a push up with the cross on his back. With the sin of the world thing. You think you're tough in the gym, think about Jesus kind of thing. Yeah. And this was the kind of attitude back in the '90s about Jesus. Like he was the ultimate gym bro. He was the ultimate guy to hang out with. Like that's why you prayed to Jesus. You wanted to hang out with Jesus, and he would teach you how to be a real man in this world. And there was a lot of disenfranchised young men at that point, and I think this latched onto them pretty hard, and that's why a lot of them became Christians. It was weird though, because I'm like doing research for this because somebody mentioned Promise Keepers last week, and of course, thank you for that, because that causes my autism to go down a rabbit hole, thanks to Fangs. And so, and I've been looking at this. I'm like, oh my god, I was so much a part of this back in the day, and the one thing that I remember most is like how Jesus was supposed to be my gym bro. He was supposed to be out there. Like it was a perfect, like for me at the time, because my dad had died, Jesus suddenly becomes my surrogate father, and he ain't even real. Like the image of Jesus that we had is an imaginary figure at that point. And so the delusion there is like, is Jesus a good example of manhood, or is manhood even a thing? Like to me, it's like, I don't know. Like I think being who you truly are is more important now than being the right man or woman of God or whatever the hell that is. And so there's this delusional relationship that you have with Jesus as your gym bro. It's a perfect comment, Michael, because that's exactly how it was. Yeah, personal revelation for Fangs. Hey, good to see you, Chuck. Um, yeah, no kidding. My flesh is real food, my blood is a real drink. That's something that Jesus said too. I mean, come on. Uh, Maybe the French are learning. You learn on Canadians. Trust me, street. There you go. Yes, there you go. Jim bro. You got a Jim bro. Jesus is your Jim bro. Or Jim Bob. The second promise of the Promise Keys there is pursue vital relationships with a few other men. Just a few. You don't want to make it weird. Um, Understanding that brotherhood and accountability are essential. Like we're bringing up the porn issue because it was such a big issue to Promise Keepers. Like we got to keep each other accountability about this internet porn shit. Now, internet porn back in the '90s was like, what was it? Like you pressed on a thumbnail. I'm not speaking from personal experience. Well, maybe I am. Like the pictures had to be downloaded, the videos had to be downloaded before you could watch them. And so there was an effort by the Christian church. And one of the things Promise Keepers wanted to do was create accountability groups, so that you had a trusted group of men to share your problems with. So keep that shit in the down low. Yes. Yes. Yes, like it's outer net porn, yes. Yes. F4 but not G4. Yes. Like there was so much emphasis on this because I don't think in the 90s I could go a year without sitting under some pastor where they would have at least 2 sermons on internet porn and how it's a peril to men. And the accountability groups ideas of the Promise Keeper were an attempt to try to address that. We'll get to the whole sexual purity culture bullshit delusion a little bit, but this one was all about that. The problem was, as I soon learned being part of these groups, is that everybody had the problem. I mean, if you're going to label internet porn as a problem, but everybody in the accountability group has the problem, what are we doing here? Are we doing like Alcoholics Anonymous? We're going to just call it PA Porn Anonymous. I'm like, I don't. Yeah, like it was slow. You had to trust who you. Beautiful, Michael. You're reading my mind, man. All the way in Germany. But like this vital relationship thing, it was like the more you realize, like, holy shit, everybody's got this problem. Like we're all like got a porn addiction somewhere. Like some of us would deny it, but you could tell by the strength of the denial it was happening. And Christianity at the time in the 90s was just so much like we got to stop male porn addiction. Now, I'm not sure how they deal with this now, but it sounds like a lot of the pastors I hear, it's like they're just trying to minimize it. Like, yeah, you shouldn't watch porn more than a couple days a week. If you're doing it 7 days a week, there's a problem. Like, because it is so pervasive. And it's just kind of the pursuing these relationships. Like you weren't looking, like I was looking for like maybe a good male relationship to kind of replace the one with my father that I used to have with my dad who had died. But what I got was a bunch of people that were just as broken as I was, so to speak. And it just, as a Christian, it just didn't work really well. We had our group for like 2 years, but I don't think we had any serious discussions about anything when I look back at it. So I know his porn came up. So here you are. That's going to probably come up a couple of times because the big thing in Christianity in the 90s was the internet. The internet was becoming a bigger thing year by year. And, we were having that dial-up download porn. So it was kind of this. So, but yeah. Yeah, that's when you go to the brothels on the Sabbath. There you go. The third one, well, and anyway, I think the delusional nature of number 2 was like you could go to other men and they would be stronger than you were on a certain issue. You quickly learned that was not the case. Like everybody had this weakness and it was kind of universal and nobody was getting there. And that leads into the next one. To practice spiritual, moral, ethical, and sexual purity. Good God. Where do I start? But they had this big emphasis on being a pure man, somebody who is purified by Christ and all this other stuff. And this is where it gets really unhealthy. Like this is an unhealthy delusion because the goal going with the other 2 is to be like Jesus. So you had to have this moral perfection, this spiritual perfection, ethical perfection, sexual perfection. And no, I don't remember any instruction on the sexual perfection being actually a good lover to your wife. I don't remember any of that. Yeah, like there was none of that, Michael. There's no take a shower and use contraception. No. Yes, no artificial flavors. Beautiful, Evan, beautiful. But yes, like the idea here, as I recall, was like this idea of being pure in every possible way. Like all your thoughts were pure, your morality, your decisions was pure. Uh, you only thought about boinking your wife, not boinking anything else. You had this spiritual um, desire to be spiritually pure. You didn't want to be corrupted by sin. Like the whole getting away from sin thing was a thing. And I look back at it now, it's like there are certain things about being a human being that they were trying to get us to stop doing. Like, I don't know. Yeah, like honestly, sometimes that was the case. Like they got the porn addiction problem in the 90s got to be such a common affair that like it just you had a lot of pastors like just trying to do damage control. Like yeah, I know this guy watches porn like every day, but he's still a good deacon, you know. And in my denomination, the Assemblies of God, like that stuff, you had to keep that shit secret because you could get disfellowshipped, or if you were a pastor, you could get suspended, like Jimmy Swaggart had. And so, well, they tried to suspend him, and then he told them to f off. But um, yeah, like this is the thing that begins to bother me at this point, Michael. They could have taught us something more useful, like how to make good moral decisions and but if you're always trying to emulate what God is supposedly wants out of you for purity, okay, and you're always worried about purity, you really can't vote for anything else. So in the Gnostic tech, not really, okay. Is he a good Seacon? I don't know. I don't know. As easily 20 intercourses per day. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, like this was just so unrealistic because all it really did was create a lot of guilt. Like you were always guilty that you weren't completely pure, and this pursuit of purity, and notice that it's all like it goes with the other ones. You have that vital relationship with men, so you have accountability, so you can get rid of your porn addiction, and you discover that the person you have accountability has the same addiction. Like this was the 90s was just a really weird thing where you had the front face. Well, it's probably still the same way. You have this front righteous face of Christianity, and then the rest of it was just, it was all window dressing, false fronts, all that stuff. Not reasonable, but very real, yes. Does sexual improvement chats before marriage or missionary with wife, no porn, etc. Promise keepers? It could be Dragon Rider. It was definitely chastity before marriage. That was definitely something that Promise Keepers promoted. I'm not sure about the sexual positions. I don't think they got into that. Definitely no porn. They didn't want, like the whole sexually impure thoughts, like you couldn't lust after other women. Like you couldn't be a human being, like with that kind of like our sexual nature is so pervasive. Like, I mean, you don't even notice it half of the time. It's just like, yeah. I don't know. Like, well, I'm trying to remember. Like, we're going to get into the denominational thing where they try to encourage people to reach beyond all these discriminatory things, but it's one of the reasons why a lot of people think Promise Keepers failed is they never really took that promise very seriously. In fact, in recent days, they've kind of dialed that back. So, but we'll get there. Then, of course, the sexual purity thing leads into build strong marriages and families through love, protection, and biblical values. Um, I don't know. Gosh, I seem to remember. Hold on. T.D. Jakes was a guy back then too. Yes, and I want a list of his books and when they were published, because I seem to remember one at Promise Keepers events quite often. He's written so many, though, it might take me a while. Oh my gosh. I just need a list. Just give me a list. Oh my God. I just want a list of his books. Just give me. No, I don't want that. All right. So I'm trying to get. Okay. Yes, there was. No, that's a little bit. Boy, this guy's been writing forever. Jesus Christ, get off of there. Dude. No, yeah. Like there was like Naked and Not Ashamed was out there back then. I seem to remember that one. Because You're Anointed. Oh, there was another one about men and women that he had done back then that was floating around at the time. And one of the big things in Promise Keepers was being that spiritual head of your house. If you were married and had a family, you had to be the protector and the provider and the whole traditional husband role of being a Christian husband. And yeah, Promise Keepers tried to do that with strong marriages. Like, you got to do your side. Like, their whole vision of a strong marriage was the dude doing the things expected out of a dude, and the lady doing these things expected out of a lady, which it was very traditional. Like, if you think trad wives and trad husbands on steroids, it kind of had that vibe to it. Having the biblical values of a man doing the male things. So those things. Protestants do missionary differently? Probably. Let's see. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. Seventh promise of the seventh front. Here's for the hat. Okay, there we go. We the People's winning, by the way, at the moment. Became a movement at around. Yes, like that is a very good connection. It was about the same time. And so there was this notion, because as I look, people ask me why I'm talking about this. It's because it's a deconversion issue for me, and I think it is for a lot of people, a lot of men in particular that remember this time as a formative time of your life when you're in your 20s and you're trying to figure shit out as a man. And Promise Keepers comes along and does this. Well, a lot of purity culture came out of that too. Like, and there was, of course, this backwater back at the ladies. Like, you ladies need to stop dressing so provocatively and all that bullshit. You need to, and victim blaming and things like that were very much a thing in the 90s, by the way. So thanks, Martin. Every church I attended had some hidden sexual. Yeah. Every church I pastored too. Like, I lost track of sexual misconduct every year in my church and denomination when I was part of the Assemblies of God. There was probably at least 2 ministers that I would hear of every year that got busted either for porn or an affair or something, including one that had a homosexual affair. And back then that was like super taboo. So yeah, kiss dating goodbye. Yes. Yes. But yeah, like it was such a pervasive thing. Like the scare of what the internet could do to a man's purity. Like, there were guys in Promise Keepers I know that had made an absolute vow that they would never have the internet in their home because of this problem. And it was like, okay, whatever, like, it's coming, and sooner or later you won't be able to avoid it. Everybody will be doing it. And that prediction turned out to be true for the most part. So you can avoid it, but yeah, there's a whole lot of things happening that you are not aware of. Let's see, number 5, support the mission of the church by honoring and praying for its leadership. This one, my pastor at the time, after my father's death, really turned on me. And he disliked me. And I tell you what it was. It was like he was older. He didn't have it anymore in some ways. Like he would preach a sermon and it'd be boring as whale shit. And we would just, all take a private nap with our eyes open half the time. And I would get up and preach. And it was better. I mean, I'm not the greatest preacher in the world, but he was jealous because a lot of people looked to me and a lot of people knew that I was educated in this stuff and I was finishing up my seminary degree at the time. And so this one was the toughest one for me because I'm looking at this jackass and going, dude, just stop being jealous. Like, just go do the thing. You're the pastor of the church, go do it. And I had a hard time with this one because sometimes you realize that some of these leaders that are in your churches, they're assholes, they're narcissists, they're people that are trying to manipulate people. I even understood that back then. And it's like, leadership shouldn't automatically get your support. Like there was this hidden agenda among this one of supporting your pastor or your church leaders or whatever. And the Catholics that were attending Promise Keeper, yes, there was a few. They like, oh yeah, we should have support the Pope. It's like the whole thing was just a big thing about supporting the leadership. So, manipulate, yes, manipulate, yes. But yeah, like it was just when you consider the fact that when they made this stuff in 1990 and literally just less than 5 years before, like Jimmy Swaggart had his breakdown, the Bakers got caught with their scandals. Like there was a shit ton of television scandals throughout the 80s. And what is one of the promises they make in the 90s? Well, you got to support the missionary church by honoring and praying for its leadership. Like this was the thing. And this still exists. Like you can still go to the Promise Keepers website and they have these 7 promises. They've endured. But their whole thing is how the reason why these men of God fall is because nobody's praying for them enough and nobody's honoring them enough. And it's like, no, they fall because they're humans and they're running a scam. And so, yes. Oh, yeah, definitely oral jealousy, probably. Yes, Tammy Faye, the eyes, yes. Yes, the Tammy Faye Baker and her husband. Oh, my God. I remember Jimmy Swaggart's probably more because he was in Assemblies of God boy, but and we also, when I was at Bible college, we got a shit ton of refugees from Jimmy Swaggart Bible College. Like they came in droves to Trinity. Like Trinity had its largest freshman class ever the year after the scandal. Actually, the next 3 or 4 years after the scandal, as people left Jimmy Swaggart Bible College and came to ours and others. And so Promise Keepers comes along in the 90s and says, we need to support these leaders and pray for them because that's supporting the mission of the church. And it just created this delusional attitude that leaders in the church, and of course they were men leaders, you can't have women. They needed special prayer. They needed special, protection against all the temptations. Never mind that your local pastor was probably struggling with the same sins, if not more so than most of his flock. Yes, think things really loud at your leaders. That'll be better. So you can see, Brent. One of the church is wrong. Do you then have the leadership of the church just wrong? Yeah, like that was the issue. Like there was in Promise Keepers, there was this kind of, and still is, like you got to obey the people in charge. And this is where it becomes like any other religious organization. It's always like you got to follow what the leader says. When people ask me why it's so easy to get religious people to be authoritarian in their outlook on life, it's everywhere. Like their church is that way, their organizations are that way. Their theology is that way, God's the king. And so no matter what happens, you still get behind the leadership. It was just really weird. Hey, Triple E, good to see you. Never PB. Okay. I mean, I saw Tammy Fabian tennis with the celebrities like Rob Van Winkle, Vanilla Ice, Eric Estrada. At that point, she seemed to be very accepting of it. Yeah, like that was what was weird is after her divorce, Josh, from her husband, she seemed to be much more open-minded. Like, and I think the whole thing that she got mad about was it was a scam. Like, and she knew it was a scam. And I don't know. Of the two of them, she seemed to have the most conscience, like about what happened. I'm thinking about Ed shilling the like button very, very, very hard right now. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, when she was on the old kick with Jim, she seemed to be very much a part of it. Like the comments that most women made back then in the 80s and 90s was about her makeup. They didn't give a shit about much of anything else. Like, there was a T-shirt out at the time that said I ran into Tammy Faye, and it literally has like the makeup of a woman on the front of it. I ran into Tammy Faye Baker. So, but that was usually the joke with her. And say respect is earned, not given. If leaders act like a-holes, they should be treated like a-holes until they should. Yeah, but that's not Bible, Dragon Rider. Like you honor the king regardless of whether the king is honorable. Like it's embedded in this. And Promise Keepers still to this day is kind of like you stand by your leaders. That's because some of their leaders aren't exactly all that great. And so there you go. Rule number 34. Yes. So hypothetically, they would attack a victim over punishing the abuser, sort of thing. Sure. Yep. Yeah, like a lot of people came to Jimmy Swaggart's defense. I know this one pretty good because I've studied it when I was part of the Assemblies of God for years. So a lot of people came after people that went after Jimmy, like, oh, but he's apologized. He's repented. He should just be able to go right back to it. Okay. He apologizes to his wife on television, but it wasn't really much of an apology. And, they ended up getting broke up, and, he ended up spending a lot of time with a lot of prostitutes after that. And then he got to the point where he wasn't repenting about it anymore. He was just like, yeah, it's none of your effing business. Hey, Hope, good to see you. So, yeah, like, like Promise 7 was like, just be blindly obedient to your leaders, which is not a really good idea. Number 6 is probably the most controversial one when you're trying to build an interdenominational organization. Because the idea goes reach beyond racial, denominational, generational, and cultural barriers to demonstrate biblical unity. And sounds nice, doesn't it? Like, let's do biblical unity. The problem with talking about biblical unity is, has Christians ever been united? Like, have they ever been one thing? The racial issue really pissed off the Southern Baptist Convention. A lot of the SBCs wouldn't join Promise Keepers because they had all that racist shit in their constitution, still do, I believe. The denominational barriers became a problem because you have a lot of these denominations that want doctrinal purity. They got to have the Bible being the Bible thing. And and let's not even get into generational and cultural barriers. Like, they want to get rid of generational barriers, so me as a Gen X needs to hang out with a Gen Zer, and have a good time, things like that. They were trying to get rid of these so-called barriers, like the older generation in church and the younger. They also wanted to get rid of cultural barriers, like different barriers between nations. The whole idea behind Promise number 6 is getting past all that. The problem with doing that in the United States is a lot of these denominational and racial barriers are still existent to this day, and they are in some ways stronger than they were. A lot of people who write about Promise Keepers in an academic way say that this is the promise that killed them. Like, this is why they're so small now compared to what they used to be, because they never really took on these issues. Like, they just, like, we're going to leave it to all of you Promise Keepers to overcome that. They never, like, I remember one of the remarks coming out of the Silverdome at that conference in 1995 was, when they really didn't deal with Promise 6. And this was being said by a black man. Like, he was like, man, they never really deal with that racial, divide thing in Promise number 6, do they? And he's just talking out loud as we're walking out. And I'm like, that kind of, yeah, well, that's also a possibility, Michael. Like, let's get rid of those generational barriers, So let's see. They still looked at others as less than because they didn't know the truth. Yes, and that's kind of there's kind of a thing there with the sixth promise of a promise keeper, where they're still trying to other people. Like, the way it's written is the assumption of barriers, and we got to break those down. Promise Keepers was an organization of men in the church, founded back in the 90s. It still exists to this day. It's had several iterations, and this is their 7 promises that makes a promise keeper, and they're all very conservative Christian, red pill based. Just so you know, that's the short version. If you really want to know more, they still have their website up, and you can peruse it. But yeah, like, it was, it was an interesting time in my life. I'll just put it that way, because I was a part of this organization for about 3 years. I think 1998 is when I kind of lost interest because of number 6. Like, you had denominations like the Assemblies of God has a sister organization that is a African American version of the Assemblies of God. What is their name? Church of Christ or something to that effect. And when I was still in the assemblies, they finally got around to apologizing to them for alienating them because they were black. Like, the problem with number 6 is, in order to take it on, you're going to have to look the Southern Baptist Convention, the Assemblies of God, some of the mainstream denominations in the eye, and tell them you're racist. You have these cultural barriers. So you could say that. It's kind of a Christian cult, yes. It's not as big as it used to be. I think their high point was the March on Washington, and I think it was early October 1997. They managed to get like 600 to 800,000 men to be on the Washington Mall at the same time. So that was probably the height of their influence at the time. They still have an influence over a lot of people. So I think some of the stuff they teach now, I would say, is very red pill, like getting back to the traditional male role model, using Jesus Christ as your male role model. Although we got to get rid of all that shit about giving to the poor and all that. But yeah, I know, hon. I get it. Yeah, it still exists. So, but yeah, like, they had their heyday in the 90s, and a lot of it had to do with internet porn, I think. There was such a strong desire to get men back onto purity and all this other shit, and having relationships with other men so you could be accountable to each other. This still exists in some churches with, like, the accountability group, where you have men meeting together, being accountable to things like, have you watched porn this week? Have you drank and did drugs? Or so there you go. Gathering different people together, not to actually have a strategy from top, sounds completely mind-numbing. You actually gather like-minded men and just sad. Yeah, like this was the problem, Tripoli, with Promise Keepers. They never really addressed the elephants in the room about Promise number 6. Like, you have denominations that are literally split still in the United States over racial lines. Like, the Southern Baptist Convention is very, very white, and they have a counter in the South that is the black version. The Assemblies of God had that for years, where we had the white version of the Assemblies of God, and then there was a black version. Um, this shit still exists. Like, that's, if you're going to take on racial and denominational lines, a lot of those times those two things are overlapped. Like, there's a like there are many denominations that exist because these white denominations wouldn't accept black people or anybody of any other ethnicity. And now you're having an organization called Promise Keepers come along and say, hey, you got to take that on. You got to get rid of that. Sounds like a great way to set up websites and other resources. Yeah, it's true. But yeah, like, yes, accountability buddies. Yes, Tilty. There you go. Oh, yes, like, yeah, there are stories. Like, if you look up the history of the Southern Baptist Convention, we talked about them, I think, last week or the week before. There's literally parts of their history where um, they are literally making statements about why they won't integrate, and they're making them very, very late in the game. Okay, so, like, so checks, notes, clutches, pearls. Oh my gosh. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for the super chats, guys. I appreciate that. Thanks, Tilting. You know what, Tilting? I love your modding. You're on the ball. I appreciate that. I do. Um, so, and then of course the generational cultural barriers. You know, like, you want old people to get along with young people, kind of thing. Old men to get along with young men and pass on that wisdom. And cultural barriers was like an international thing, because Promise Keepers had a international moment. I'm not so sure if they're international now, but there was Promise Keeper groups in Africa and South America and Europe, I believe. So let's see. Promise Keepers have to stay relevant given the amount of people peddling toxic masculinity on YouTube. Yes, like that's the interesting thing that's happened in the manosphere inside the church. Whenever you listen to Christians talk about masculinity and femininity, you ever notice that some of the stuff that they say echoes that toxic masculinity or traditional wives, traditional men marketing that's not necessarily Christian? Like, there's definitely a connection here, but they're gonna, in order to stay relevant, they have to, like, come that direction. Like, they can't just have Jesus as my gym bro anymore. Jesus is also, he's got my back, So there you go. Hmm. Religion groups still oppose desegregation seriously. Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. It happens. It's still there. Like, I recently heard a Christian guy get on there. He's one of these red. Gosh, I can't remember who it is, but he was talking about this. Like, he says, it all started to go wrong when we desegregated. Like, what the fuck? Yeah. See, that's the problem. Is right now the atmosphere in the United States is such that you can say any tomfool, stupid thing that you want to say that makes no sense. And a lot of these people that kept all this under wraps and didn't say it are now feel like they're emboldened to say it. And the amount, I thought a lot of this stuff was gone in my country. Like 20 years ago, I would have kind of said, well, maybe we're finally getting over it. Nope. Nope. Oh, uh, it's okay, but thanks, Tilting. And there she is, the lovely, wonderful, lovely, beautiful, smart, intelligent lap in which our Lord naps. I killed Earl, one of the smartest women I know. Welcome, Earl. I should use condom. Yes. Oh my goodness. From our Torah Tuesdays group, we're reading a book of letters emailed by an Orthodox rabbi and a Reform rabbi, and the selection of Orthodox was scarily manospherish. Really? See, that's the thing. This shit comes back around. It always seems to come back to religion. Like, what the hell? Yeah. I could tell you a story of my days at Ferris when I was doing my internship for my political science degree. I got the assignment of, there was a couple economics professors that were trying to prove, they were trying to figure out that if maybe there was more like police brutality cases because of competition. Like if a police department has more competition, is there less or more police brutality? And one of the things we studied was ethnicity, and we had to like have all these factors. And I have to be very clear here, like I don't know if the study is finished. But they studied also different ethnic neighborhoods and how the police responded, and it was police brutality claims that were upheld by the court of law. I have to make that very clear. Like, and we had to FOIA every single police department about that. If you don't think racism exists in the United States when it comes to policing, I think there's now data and numbers. Okay, quite a few. But one of the things we discovered, that the amount of police brutality claims that went before court and were upheld by the court, where the police officer got in trouble, were like double in black neighborhoods compared to other neighborhoods. So, Wolf, your state highway patrol probably is racist. I'm just gonna say it. It was just enlightening to me that shit existed. Like maybe I just lived in a naive church bubble all my life, and that's probably true. But when I was doing the work on that internship, it just blew me away, because people would argue, well, it's just claim. No, it's not claim police brutality. It's police brutality charges brought against the police that were upheld, that the judge and the jury and all of them said, yes, there was police brutality here, and they stepped over the line. It's twice as high in African-American neighborhoods as anywhere else. Like, okay, it's like, what the hell? You know, so yes, women are suppressed, homosexual, shades of David and Jonathan, yes. But yes, I was just shocked by that. Like our research, just shit, 8 years ago was showing that. So I mean, I'm gonna go all that bullshit. The Red Bear Manifest I watch really dislike the church and failed institute for fostering relationships. That's so weird to me, hearing churches mix red pill stuff. So, well, they're trying to be relevant with the manosphere, Triple E. Like, look at this statement of the Promise Keepers. The Promise Keepers came up with this shit in 1990, like in the early 90s. The part where the red pill might disagree with them is probably Promise 6. Like, we need to keep the barriers up. Like, the denominational racial barriers are there. Still there, and now they're being reinforced by a lot of the manosphere. Like the sexual barrier between men and women, definitely the manosphere wants to reinforce that. But so Promise Keepers is trying to keep a pretty face on it. Like they're trying to keep it. It's all about love. It's all about enjoying each other. But really, at some point, you have to make a distinction. And they don't want to do that. A lot of people feel Promise Keepers is not what it was back in the day when it was at its height because of number 6. They wouldn't take on the actual racism inside the church, and they wouldn't take on the denominational barriers, and that's why they lost. So it's Trump magic, yes. I don't. Okay. The thing about it, Triple E, is like I know that they were still doing their research. Like the thing with that kind of research is it takes a long time because you have to eliminate all these variables to try to figure out what the cause is. I was just working on the part about competition. So if you had a city with a police departments are like a couple of miles apart compared to a single police department in a city? Was there competition aspects that cause police brutality charges to raise or lower? And I asked him if they'd came. I said, well, we've kind of eliminated the competition thing because it's not really working. Like that was our original theory, but now it's not. Like, so they're still in process researching all that. I haven't seen them release that stuff. But yes. Yeah. I don't trust people to die on a system in the U.S. Like nobody's saying that a miracle traffic jam is all your fault, but you're still clearly in a traffic jam. Yes. And see, the man from our hate evangelicals, 90s talking points being somewhat comparable to is like something I wasn't aware of. I hate how everyone uses phrases until they are blurred. Yes. But yes, like this was one of the things that I think kind of made Promise Keepers smaller. Then it killed it. Plus the financial mismanagement. Like they tried to do conferences for free. Yeah, that didn't work out. And then the last one, the last thing you promise as a promise keeper is to influence the world, obey the great commandment and the great commission. So love the Lord God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. That stuff. At this point, the accusation against Promise Keepers is that they got very evangelical, conservative about things. In the initial stages, you could go to a Promise Keeper like the one I went into in the Silverdome. So I'm unplug my mic for a second. All right. But you'd go to the one in the Silverdome, and there'd be all kinds of denominations, all kinds of people back in the day, and so what you'd end up with is all this interconnectedness. Well, then they started pressing the Great Commission. They started pressing being more evangelical, and suddenly the non-evangelical Christians started headed for the door. So that was no, I wasn't. Yeah, I just lost. My microphone went off for a second and came back on. I had to turn it back on, but it came back on for some reason. That's not you. But yeah, like there was this. It just all of a sudden they started to fail because these issues kept rising. The racial issue, the denominational issue, the generational issues, the very thing that Promise Keepers said that they were promising against. They weren't doing anything about. Like they weren't doing anything about them, and it was all lip service. It was all smoke and mirrors. So about 1998, I dropped them myself because it's like this is the part that of Promise Keepers that is really interesting. Are we actually going to diminish racial barriers? Are we actually going to start tearing down denominational barriers? And the problem is they never really addressed it. So yeah, it was we just kind of I just like lost interest because they weren't doing anything along those lines. They're asking all these Promise Keepers to make these two promises, and they as an organization were completely ignoring the problem. So it's like, yeah, it does attract lunatics. I can tell you one thing, Blossom, with the police officers. I think there's some people that have come to the conclusion that if you're former military but not like a military police, it's not the job for you. so yeah, but yeah, like it's like always this pipeline of, oh, if you're former military, you'd be a great cop, and the answer to that question now psychologically is no. That's the missions of the police and the missions of the military are very, very different and quite polar opposites, in fact. And so you really, really need to do a different type of person to be a police officer. Like people that know how to de-escalate a situation, not just pull out their gun and shoot something. That might be proverbial. Owning to the low and burn needs to be more difficult to become a cop. Yeah. Well, they had the Supreme Court case, or was it a while back, where it it was about the IQ test for police officers, and some police officer got that overturned that you're not allowed to do IQ tests in certain places. I don't know if that was regional, local, or national, but so he's a really good guy, but I'm not sure you want him to pull. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, when you look at some of the stuff and the problems in our world and in our country, in my country in particular, there are certain personality types. Like we saw this with ICE, like just last year. Like it seems hard to believe it's not that long ago, but I just, yeah, like there's the issue with the police usually is they accept anybody, but we saw that with ICE. Like you had very low barrier to entry to become an ICE agent that they needed. The training was a joke, very short, really, when you think about it. There's nothing in their training that was about de-escalating a situation or doing things peacefully. When you create that kind of perfect storm, you're going to get what you get. I personally think, like, you train certain professions for years and require them to have some sort of formal education. Some police officer academies don't require that. Like, you just get into the police academy, and it's very much like the old movies. So, yeah, like there have been cases where IQ scores have been a detriment. If you're smart, they don't want you there either. So, yes, like when you have like no vetting process, like ICE the recent things with ICE is a very good example. This is the criticism ICE is getting, is not so much what they did as like they created a situation where it was inevitable what they did. So it was just like, if you have no good training, like to me, a police officer as a technical profession, that's a 2-year degree to me, like that minimum. Like you should have a 2-year degree in law enforcement or something with all the training and stuff before you're even allowed to be considered for the academies. But they don't do that. They just like bump you into the police academy and train you for a year or two and hope you're good. But there's just like a lot more to being a police officer these days. And they just, well, we can't get enough cops, so we got to lower the barrier to entry and let them come in. And it's like, oh well, maybe you just need better cops. I don't know. Maybe quality might be a thing that's better than quantity. So, and they're like, I know when I was in school at Ferris, we studied different eras of law enforcement in the United States, and there was an era there where they really believed in having like relationships with everybody, like your beat cop walking around talking to everybody. Well, they got rid of that because putting people in a police cruiser was cheaper. The problem is they lost all the connections to the neighborhoods, and then the neighborhoods got worse. So, hey, Earl. But yeah, hey, Kelly, good to see you. But yeah, like, but yeah, like there was just, the more I studied police officer work in school, it's like there's some obvious problems here, and it's too bad too. Meant to do a smiling face. Money works too. It makes a lot of us smile. Um, the better thing to make you smile though is Fangs. Fangs will always make you smile, especially this picture. So, but yeah, like I don't know. When I look back at Promise Keepers and I look at the manosphere today, I feel like something got rolling there. Because when you look at the 90s, you had all these Gen X young men at the time. It's hard to think of us all as young men once upon a time, but we were. In my case, I just lost my dad. And so Promise Keeper was one of those things that kind of, okay, I'm missing the male companionship of my father. Maybe I can find it in some other men struggling with the same problems. But you get involved in the group and you suddenly realize that people are just, it's unreasonable expectations from everybody. Like, so what the fuck is wrong? Um, Here, I'll give you the rundown again, seeing some of you were late. Promise Keepers was created by Bill McCartney in 1990. He wanted Christian men committed to godly living, accountability, and family leadership. They first met in 1991. They grew rapidly from 1993 to 1997, having massive stadium-wide events drawing tens of thousands of people, of men in particular. The peak was Stand of the Gap in October 4th, 1987, where 600 to 800,000 men gathered on the Washington Mall that were part of Promise Keepers. They emphasized male accountability groups, aka porn recovery, racial reconciliation, strong marriages, sexual purity, and evangelism. They've restructured a couple of times. They still have a website and still do some shit. So you sounded so conversive. Yeah, like I can see where somebody else we would absolutely see this differently. Like it was just how can I put this? I can see where a woman would look at Promise Keepers and see a threat because they were definitely for like traditional male roles and traditional female roles. In fact, I remember there was a teaching, I think it was one of the books, talking about how they wanted you to figure out ways to gently, like, you know, like Christ loves the church, remind your church, quote unquote, your wife, to be submissive. So there was a bunch of shit like that that they snuck in. But yes, like, but they've been around for a while. So, but I remember when I was, you know, a young man, and this appealed to a lot of us because we were like directionless. And so there was a common story among our young Promise Keepers that they lost their father, or their father was a joke, or they didn't really have any connections that way. And Promise Keepers definitely tapped into that. So, so, oh yeah, I know that training is garbage. That's become that's a, to travel off the resort, but phrase. Yeah, I know that's always the fear, but no, but yes, Promise Keepers, Christian male organization. I would argue I could see where you could see some groundwork of the red pill movement today, starting back then. Like there was, I know a lot of red pillars don't like Christians, like Christian traditional stuff, but they, you know, they go even farther than the Christian traditional. Like the whole love your wife like Christ loved the church. A lot of red pill don't talk about that, but Promise Keepers would. So needs to abolish eyes on that Steve, so human rights abuse doesn't happen anymore. I don't know. Can it be? I think you can change an organization by changing the philosophy of it. ICE didn't used to be this way. People seem to forget that it was not as always like that. So, really, I know if Red Pill would be Christian. Yes, like it. It's when you have this, like, you got to keep your wives home, you know, keeping the house, making babies, preferably man child. Yeah, there's an element of that in Promise Keepers. They would disagree. So, but yeah, like there's something there. So, oh yeah, yeah, like us Gen Xers never appear, you never had a problem with absentee parents. Fucking latchkey kids, all of us. Um, I remember when I was watching a video on Gen X recently, they pointed out that 25% of us came home to an empty house and had to figure shit out from like the time we got home from school to like when our parents got home. So there's like a 2, 3 hour gap where we're raising ourselves and figuring shit out. So it's like there's that aspect of it. Yes, like absentee fatherism and parenthood was never a problem for us. Yeah, right. Our parents were doing other shit. Oh my goodness. Yeah, trad wives would fit in with Promise Keepers too. I think that would be a good connection too. There was a woman's organization that was Promise Keepers connected, but it didn't do as well because they went into that stuff like, yeah, you need to be a good little wifey, stay home, cook for your husband, cook for your kids, pop out babies, be a good little Christian wife. That's been around for a long time, Martin. And pretty damn ethical for years and years. I honestly don't remember a time I would include ethical as a scripture wise. Okay. Yes. Well, even before it got as it is now, yeah, like it's always had its problems. Like it's the way we handle immigrations. Yes, baby fangs, of course, Earl. I'm trying to make everybody feel good. This has been like whenever I talk about Promise Keepers, it's depressing because it was a part of my life when I feel like I got taken advantage of. I had just lost my father, and these people come along and say, "Hey, we can give you good male role models, and we can help you with navigating." Because I was in my mid 20s when my dad died, so you feel like I still feel like I lost something as far as guidance. Like I talk with my therapist about this every once in a while. It's like when you lose a parent when you're that age, it's like, man, I really wish dad was around. Like it's happened to me so many times. Well, this group comes along and says, "Oh, you can have Jesus as your dad," and you can. It's like you just look up to him, and Jesus can be your gym bro, and we'll create these accountability groups where you can keep accountable with us, and but like it's baby fangs does a better job with warm fuzzies than that. Yeah, losing a parent's rough. Like it's tough. And I think this kind of organization, these Christian organizations do this all the time because they see somebody vulnerable and they come in and they try to take over. And with Promise Keepers, it was young men. It was men that were going through crisis and they came along and nabbed them up. They still exist and they still do that. Like if you go to their website, I think promisekeepers dot something, um, they still have that flavor of trying to give young men purpose and meaning in life. And when you look at the people with the testimonials, it's almost always like my dad's gone or my dad was an absent parent or like there's something that this organization clicks with certain family crises and it's kind of creepy. So so I don't know. I don't know if it'll ever go away. The problem with government institutions, especially the alphabet soup, it's really hard to get rid of them. They're like ticks. But basically, latchkey kid, because my dad was a single dad when I was like 12. He drove trucks locally. So, yeah, like you know the experience. Like, but there was a lot of us that our parents got divorced. So we were bouncing back and forth between parents. Now, I didn't have that problem, but both my parents were like workers. Like, and my dad was a second shifter, so when I got home he was gone. And mom, like, she managed the local hospital lab. She was a lab tech turned lab manager, and she was often late getting home. So there would be days I'd be alone at my house from 3 o'clock till 8 at night. So so there we go. Yeah. The man up thing, oh my god. um if there's anything more damaging to this notion of masculinity that you just got to man up and take everything on your own self, what a load of shit. That needs to go. Like, so yeah, yeah, yeah. This Jim Love, level apologetics seems like the most common thing seems to be taking advantage of vulnerable and I despise it. You lost somebody. How great. I mean, how sad, how pitiful. I can give you love. Yeah, like the Blossom, they come in. Like if you're like say, anybody, you lose a loved one, you lose a parent, you lose a child, they will come in, um and basically, like if you ever want to see something diabolical, listen to somehow pastors preach at a funeral. Like if they're an evangelical conservative pastor funeral, it ain't about the person who died. It's about Jesus. Like they take advantage of people's grief, all that shit. And it just, when you get out, you're like, man, that's like garbage. I won't say I was ever lonely, Kelly. I was an only kid, so a lot of times I did come home and be by myself. But what us Gen Xers did is we were at our friend's house. Like a lot of time we'd band together. Like I remember spending a lot of time at my friend's house instead. Like there's an old joke about that Gen Xers will tell about when they were kids. Like if you wanted to know where everybody was, where are all the bikes on the front lawn? So, it's kind of that way, but it wasn't always lonely. It's just you have a bunch of kids that are raising each other without a lot of guidance. Like that's why, Earl has joked with me and said, "You're kind of feral." Like, and there's a lot of truth to that. We're wild kids because there was nobody supervising us. The only thing that we really had was don't get in trouble to the point where I have to do something. Like if our parents had to be inconvenienced, then they get pissed at us. And so that was the only thing that was really holding you back then. I mean, we didn't have the internet. If you wanted to read a story or have a story, you had to go to the library. Like it was a different age. And I just find it very interesting looking back at it. But we'd come home, a lot of us were alone and we'd say, "Hey man, your parents home?" "Nope." "Well, why don't you come on over?" And we come on over, we get together and hang out. And, when some of our parents got home, they knew where we were and they'd call and we'd go home. And, so this is really weird. Yeah, it is gross. Yeah, don't show emotion, stuff like that. That killed me. So would want a traditional wife, but when I hear discussion about gross demeaning expectations rather than something violent, it makes me rethink things. Yeah, you're kind of at that point in your deconversion where the social issues and relationship issues are going through your brain. The doctrinal shit died a long time ago. You're out of that. But yeah, I spent probably 2 or 3 years rethinking good relationships. Yeah, lonely. Sometimes, like if your friends didn't have, you couldn't hang out with your friends, that would be lonely. So I'm in Deacon's house for a few weeks, and I was a teenager. His Deacon daughter. Okay, well there you go. The education you get at religious people's houses. Yeah. God damn it. Being a man with eating shit, but guy needs to be fired. It's aware and approves. So I'm leaving at the Deacon's house. There you go. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I think we're very self-reliant because we had to be. Like it's not something that a lot of us wanted in that era. It's just something that happened. Like the ones that aren't around didn't survive it. And that's a joke, but in some ways it's true. I would like to see, certain statistics involving, self-deletion and other stuff among Gen X. I think it's very interesting. But yeah, there's just something weird about that. I don't know if they reach it on their own. See, that's the thing about this whole male female role thing. Like, I don't know where that comes from. Is it evolutionary? So, yeah, he's a kid. Yeah, it takes a bit. Like you go through the doctrinal stuff, you go through the belief stuff, the God relationship stuff first, and then you start looking at your other relationships. And I had the additional layer of being a former minister, so I've been looking at that for years too. So, what did the what did the, what did the ministry teach me about stuff that's completely ass backwards? Yeah, oh yeah, and we did, but we also figured out how not to get caught. Yeah, like what is it? There's a line in the Christmas Story movie, A Christmas Story, where the kid says, "Adults are always fond of saying those sort of things, but we knew it was better not to get caught." Um, and so we worked very hard not to get caught, and often didn't. So, so there you go. There you go. Yeah, it's presuppositional. Here, I can put up the presupposition too. There you go. But yes, yes. But like, I just remember this as a like when I was a young adult. It just difficult time, very difficult time for me. I finally got over a lot of it by the time I hit 28, 29, but I wasn't really over it. I just managed to deal with it in very bad ways that I'm still dealing with. This part would be attacks and considering his truth claims. Yeah, like your worldview, like once you discard the God part of the worldview, you realize that a lot of your presuppositions are not valid. Like that's why Earl, I think, is doing the presupposition things. Like once you get rid of those presuppositions about how relationships work and the differences of between men and women or whatever, that stuff starts to detangle too, and you have to rethink it all in the same way. Like it's a process, and I tell people like I've been doing this process for quite some time, and I have a feeling I'll be doing it for some time to come. So there's so many things religion trains you to think. The neural pathways get trained. So it's a man. Actually, there's some pretty good evidence in some cultures that women were treated as equals. I mean, I know the all the Scandinavian countries have that tradition back when. So you propose that you're awesome, presuppose I'm awesome. There you go. Fine. A role and partner to grow old with, then the role doesn't matter. Yeah, like I think that's where I'm getting. Like I don't care what they do for me, what role they fill, or what role I fill. There's a part of me that just wants to have somebody around as I face life. It's like it's nice. But then again, I have the Fluffle. I have my channel. I have some good friends like Earl and a few others, and keeps me going. So maybe that's all I need. So so there's that. But I am out of time. I hope everybody enjoyed this little trip down memory lane about Promise Keepers and their effect on me and effect on a lot of people. So yeah, you like the presupposition, yes. But yes, but like thanks everybody for being here. Like I announced, I won't be doing Wednesday broadcasts for the foreseeable future. They may come back. I'm just taking days off in the middle of the week to kind of keep on a mental even keel. So, but so so you guys like keep me going with all of that. So and I appreciate the understanding there. A lot of you texted me or supported me on the community post that yeah, you got to do what's best for you. So I'll be back Thursday at 7 p.m. for Deconversion Hangout. Just want to make sure everybody knows, like, if you don't see me tomorrow, that's why. So I've got to, I'm taking care of myself. So, but yes, thanks everybody for being here. I got to get ready for work. Great discussion tonight. It's just looking back at it, it's one of those things that you kind of like, oh, that's where that problem started. And so oh well, thank you. Now you're making me tear up, and I'm gonna get leaky. So, yes. But yes, but I'll see all of you Thursday. Other announcements, of course. Earl's GoFundMe link is in the chat. It's also in the description, so we could continue to need your help there to make sure Earl gets back to a place of stability and health and can do all the things that we love and enjoy from her. So thank you for all the help so far. But if you're looking for a good cause, there it is. So there you go. Also, let's see, any announcements? Fluffle Fangs Discord links in there. Please share and like and share and do all the things with this stream. I appreciate all of that. It's really good. Yeah, well, I'll be back Thursday, so I've enjoyed it. Special thanks today for Josh and Martin. Thanks for the donations. Appreciate it. Keeps my channel humming along. So your real big brother's a twat. Okay. And so I'm the big brother I always wanted. Okay. That's fair. That works. I'll take that. I don't have any siblings, so I adopt a lot. So no, I don't have that. So, but everybody thanks. May Fangs nibble on all of your hearts. May he purify your vegetables from religious corruption with his sharp pointy teeth. May he draw himself closer to you with his sharp pointy fangs. If you need warm fuzzies in your life from a religion, just make sure that you gaze upon the eyes of the godlet fangs, and you'll get all the warm fuzzies you'll ever need. If you need some sort of religious ritual, you can always circumcise a carrot, leave it on top of your stash, or anything else you find valuable. Maybe Fangs will take the carrot instead of stealing your stash. Maybe he won't. Maybe he'll take both. Maybe he'll take none of it. Results vary, like all religious rituals. Make sure you also check your local laws about your stash. Fangs will use legal means to take them. So there you go. Also, warning of the lies and vibes of the apologists. Make sure you keep an eye for that. And always watch out for those precept opossums. They may be cute, but so there you go. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. Appreciate all of you. And as always, folks, live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. So make sure you're taking all your time, money, and opportunities and give them to yourself, the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. And don't waste them on the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. A lot of experience in this video today. So it was a good one. So thanks, everybody. I'll catch you all Thursday at Deconversion Hangout at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, USA. I'll see you all then. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end to find out how you can support the channel better. Of course, there's always the normal notions of just hitting that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit your notification bell, and share the video with your friends and family that you think would be interested. That's always very appreciated. If you want to support the channel in a more tangible way, there's several options. You can super chat or super thanks in the comments or during a stream. Those are always very welcome. But you also can become a member of the channel. Members have certain perks like getting the videos early, things like that. They also have some good custom emojis during chat. So all of these things are good benefits to members, but they also support this channel and its work to continue to normalize atheism and deconversion, for which I'm very appreciative. It keeps me going, and it keeps me as a content creator being able to do more and more as a content creator. So if you choose those methods of support, thank you very much. And I appreciate you once again for staying to the end and listening to other ways that you can support the channel. Appreciate it. Thanks, and I'll catch you next time.